Welcome back to another episode of WittyBantr. Your hosts, Nabil and Anika, are here. We're missing one host, Daniel. I believe he's playing video games. So maybe he'll join us and maybe he won't.
Oh, and I got a notification saying that WittyBantr is live.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep, that is good.
Yeah, if you follow us on YouTube, you should get these kind of notifications. But you have to make sure you hit next to the subscribe button is a notification bell. And I believe you have to have that toggled to get those kind of notifications.
That is good to know. So I should keep it off for now. So Nabil, what have you been doing recently? What's new in your life since last week?
I think it's playing.
Oh, should I
press pause? Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
What is new in my life? I tried an internship at a software company, and I realized that I wasn't interested either in software development in a professional setting, or I wasn't interested in the product itself. So I'm unsure which one it was. So I'm continuing to look for operations jobs, not necessarily software jobs. And yeah, trying to also continue work on my graphics engine stuff, because sometimes the job searching slows that down. But I want to make sure I'm doing both at the same time, because if I'm only doing the job stuff and not doing the programming on my own, then I'm not there's no value being created at the same time, kind of thing.
So, my life for now, as I transition, I'm still teaching, of course, and enjoying the teaching that I do. But as I transition into becoming a more structured storyteller through novel writing or participating in literary events, I had the pleasure of attending another Play on Words event. And again, they selected one of the chapters from my book, Birth Canal, and the woman who read that is very kind of it looked like she'd well trained, although her background is in engineering. I don't know what level of training she's received in acting, but she read the chapter in a very touching way, as well as, because my character is the kind of person who's not supposed to cry ever, and she goes, if you had let the character cry, I would have cried, because she was giving birth at that time. So anyway, that was a very fulfilling time, just kind of to listen to your work being read and others listening to it. But the other part that I was thinking of bringing up is the conversation about the story behind the story, or the story of the event. So one of the other readings was a reading of a play about a teachers' union, and kind of the ridiculous take on a teachers' union and some of the stereotypes of the different people, the major fundraiser who has a fridge in the school filled with beer, and he makes, I don't know, $80,000 because he's selling beer, and because everybody wants
And what year is this setting?
It's kind of a non-year setting, but the point being, it focuses on the stereotypical personality. Some people who've been in the system for 40 years, and then some people who are more active, and some people want to pick a fight, and so on. And when I was working with my colleagues in college, once I mentioned that, when I retire, I'd like to make a Bollywood movie about community college. And there would be a tragic song in the curriculum meeting, because somehow that is the most contentious time that we have people get really upset about the curriculum they're putting forward, and if it's not passed and so on. So you have to have a tragic song there. And then there would be a singing and dancing somewhere else. So anyway, that would be a reinterpretation. And there are a lot of interpretations of the classroom, the college life, and in whether it's in the novels or TV shows or movies and so on. What do you think of your life if you were telling the story of your profession, not your personal life, but your profession? What movies have really, or books, or that have been have fictionalized that world? And of course, that world is a much younger world than the world of teaching, which is centuries old. What have you read, or what have you seen where you think, this is so the world that I have worked in?
Office Space.
Okay, tell me about Office Space. What
Office
about
Space is a movie that was released in, I want to say 1993, maybe a bit later. And it's a story about a guy who works in a generic office. I don't know what the company
is
does.
that intentional?
Yes. I think Judd Apatow was the one who directed it, if I'm not mistaken. And it's supposed to show your stereotypical kind of coworkers, the always late TPS reports that they have, which is supposed to be symbolic of just reports in general.
Yes.
That the boss always comes and says, I need you to work on that TPS report or something like that. And
somehow the report isn't automated.
Yeah, no, they have to do it. And yeah, I guess the general plot is this guy and his two friends who also work with him are worried that this will be the rest of their life, working a very mundane
which it probably will
job.
be.
Yes. Well, at the end,
is there any hope at the end?
Yeah, he leaves to work in construction, and
that's more appealing.
Yeah, his friends are like, are you sure you want to work in as a construction worker? Like, we could get you another office job, because the office gets shut down during the movie. And then he said, no, he feels happier doing manual labor. So, yeah, that's that.
What would you?
That would I bet would be relevant to many people who work in operations, which is what I have worked in. Yeah. And
would you, if you were writing a play or a movie or a novel, what would the main characters be? Tell me a bit about what your thought would be to fictionalize. And it doesn't have to be your workplace. It could be if you fictionalized your age group, or you fictionalize, what would be some things which you think people are really going to love this because they're going to connect, or they're going to get cringe because they're going to say, oh, that's me, or, because that's what happens as well when you see things which are.
What would I make?
What would you make? What would you make? A play? Would you make a movie? Would you write a book? What would it be that?
Maybe I don't know. Office Space is pretty accurate, but maybe a more modern version, because like they're using kind of old technology from the 90s.
What has it changed where you think this
hasn't changed much?
What has changed where you think, as far as maybe the social media part, or maybe it's the, because I'm thinking even with you guys playing video games, at a certain age group, as in continuing in your 50s, 60s or whatever.
Yeah. I guess in addition to the Office Space plot is that there are people our age and younger who are like doing what they want to do, and they're utilizing they're utilizing social media to somehow make money. But I bet there's a large portion of people that are like, okay, I get that they're doing that, but how do we make that connection? How do we cross that bridge?
Or even the concept
like,
of us. I mean, this
where it's like,
podcast is very new to our family story.
mhm.
It's a year new, but it's a fairly
Yeah.
stable ritual as opposed to other rituals that were part of our family.
Mhm.
So for your age group, if you said, well, you've got all the materials you need to
Yeah.
do what needs to be done.
Right. But I bet there's, I mean, even for myself, it's like, yeah, okay, I get the materials are here, but how do we
monetize.
how do we do it?
But you
It's
don't even
even-
seem to be interested in monetizing,
I mean, in monetizing what?
as in just this podcast.
I would be interested, but yeah, I'm not actively pushing it. Also, there's nothing to monetize. We don't
I
have any
know.
viewers. The only reason people are gonna pay is because you have an audience who, you know.
But we have chosen not to find an audience because we don't want to put the effort in. It's just
Yeah.
you and me talking to each other, and maybe somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I also think, again, as I mentioned previously, one, if you're looking for an audience, I don't want to look for an audience and then be like, oh, this is what they will like, and then us
Yes.
change.
Yeah.
I'd rather us build something and
That we
then
like.
find people who are interested in that. And again, that's only going to come. I don't know if anyone would be interested in the episodes we've released so far, but they would be interested, again, when one of us is doing there are
an
big things happening.
Anthropological study 100 years from now, where in the way.
Well,
in
that
the,
might be
they
interesting to
might
anthropologists.
think, this is what was happening to people who were young adults and their parents. Was this the norm, or was this an anomaly?
Yes.
And what made people do this kind of thing? Why could they not talk to each other without a microphone in front of them and without videotaping themselves?
Well, the video experience, I think,
What?
enhances the listener's experience.
Yes, if there is a listener, because these people clearly, if you click on the number of views they received, were not really high.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the reason? I mean, if somebody was analyzing us 100 years from now.
You know
Yeah.
what could be interesting?
Yes.
If somebody was using machine learning and like they used our podcast as a source material of just like words and ideas, and then they were able to like extract stuff out of it, kind of thing.
Oh, do we have
You know,
shared
do you
any deep
understand-
enough ideas? Yes, it's
like
similar to a linguistic kind of,
Yeah.
when you're understanding languages and.
or these things called deep fakes, where people are able to create videos of like Barack Obama saying
Yes.
whatever they want him to say.
Yes.
So
yes.
they take, like, I believe this is how it works.
Mm.
They take all sorts of audio pieces of him saying words, and then from that the machine's able to build whatever you want it to.
So what do you think people?
Well, I'm
would
not saying, but I'm saying that kind of idea. Maybe there's other ideas like that
Yes.
where they're
yes,
using.
Yes.
They just need the raw information of us, our audio
yes.
stuff, and then maybe they make it into something. But that's something in like 100, 200 years if
And they want to create people from 100 years
if
ago.
they're looking through YouTube archives.
Yes.
But for more current stuff, again, it'll be if I make advancements in my software project that I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
If you're making advancements in your book writing, or you're publishing another book, or turning it into a screenplay or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or if Daniel's making moves in his coffee business, then these are things that people might be more interested in
Mm-hmm.
tuning into our podcast for. But right now we're just normal average citizens.
Just average citizens with a microphone in front of us
Exactly.
and headphones on us and
Exactly. So I don't think that lends itself to a broad appeal.
could be like those diamonds.
What diamond?
And the diamonds that are difficult to find, and therefore they become, because the more popular ones you don't want to have. If there's something that everybody can get hold of, you think, oh, forget that. But if something that you think,
Yeah.
This is interesting. Not everybody wants this.
And then the interest of people, it could be for reasons you wouldn't expect. For example, you might assume someone who was listening to us is interested in what we're talking about, but sometimes people just like the way that you talk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, are you familiar with like ASMR videos?
No.
It's videos that people record where they enunciate things like very much, and they make specific sounds like tapping sounds on
Yes.
like plastic.
Yes, yes.
It people who are listening to that can it's like soothing in a way. So sometimes people just watch videos just with that intention in mind. So
what is the number of viewers in that?
about millions.
Oh my god.
There's lots of different channels.
Are they by mistake millions, or are they intentional?
Some were mistake, some were intentional. But I think, because I enjoy some of the videos too, I think the unintentional ones, and there is a YouTube video called Unintentional ASMR where they compile videos of that. Those ones are more interesting because there's also like content behind it. For example, there's these Japanese prints that I guess people used to make in 1800s and maybe even before. But then there's people today who will still make them. And so they're kind of making it and explaining the process and stuff. So, but the way that the person is explaining it is in such a way that ASMR viewers enjoy. But then also you're able to learn about this person's craft or whatever. So yes, the unintentional ASMR ones are even better, I think. And then people who some people are into pens, like calligraphy pens. So those lend themselves to ASMR videos.
That is interesting, because we used to learn calligraphy both for Urdu writing and English. We used to write in italics, and when you guys used to get italic pens for school, you never really used them, did you?
No.
And I know you both of you had to buy them. When we were growing up in England, the few years that we lived there, that's where we started learning italic writing, and I felt it was a very artistic endeavor, and so you felt really good about it.
Excuse me.
Yes. What are we?
That's just my timer for my laundry, but anyway.
Okay. And then when we came to Pakistan, then you would write on a wooden tablet with a cane pen, and the ink was actually...
and then you press a paper on it?
No. Oh. You put clay on the wooden tablet, and then you take the pen, which has been... the nib is created with a blade, so you actually use a blade to create a nice nib, and with a little cane, and you dip the nib into a pot of ink which is made out of dried powder, and you put some water in it to make it. So you mix the thing, and then you write on the tablet, the wooden tablet, with this pen, with this hand.
Oh, and the wood tablet is just your medium of reading it?
That's the medium of writing. It's called a takhti.
But then you would pass this tablet to... That's how they would...
Then someone... And because you're learning calligraphy on it, so you would write on it.
And how... But was paper not available?
Paper was available.
Okay, so what is the intention of this?
So this is interesting. It was available, but if you think of it, it wasn't that readily available. And the convenience of having a wooden tablet is when you're done with your written exercise...
You shave off a layer?
No, you put a layer of clay on top.
Oh.
So you clay it every time you want to rewrite something the next morning. You wash it off and put clay on, then leave it in the sun to dry, and then now you have a nice clear palette again, and then you write on it again. And sometimes we would put the palette in our knees to kind of sit on it and probably ruin our clothes, but we needed a quick way to dry it so that we could write on it. Now, this wasn't something we used in school. It was an aunt who helped us, learn how to do this calligraphy. And for a while, Mummy helped us with the English calligraphy, the italic writing. And we did a lot of that. I'd like to pretend that my handwriting is really nice because of that. I don't know. I don't know if it's nice, and I don't know if it's because of that. But I do know when you were in kindergarten and first grade, second grade, I was concerned about your handwriting.
Yes, it's very concerning.
But
This is why I try to type as much as possible.
you never seemed the need to refine your writing, and your teacher didn't think it was that important either. So I thought, oh, well, let it be.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's not.
Have you ever thought of your writing? Because we used to spend hours, not only on the calligraphy, but even on our notebooks. We'd write the questions in one color and then the answers in a different color. And then we'd have these copious notes that we would have taken. And these are the notes that we would then study to be able to take exams. And we would try and make sure that we had these beautiful notebooks with perfect, the science classes, we had to make the diagrams on one side. So you'd have a blank piece of paper and then writing, and then the picture would have to demonstrate what the writing is all about, whether it was maps or whether it was a biology experiment. And we used to take a lot of pride in those. I don't know if it helped us to learn. A lot of times we were just transcribing notes that somebody else had written.
Yeah.
It wasn't a learning activity. It was more of a transcription and graphic interpretation.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not that important. I don't need handwriting in my professional life, or I didn't. So yeah.
I guess
didn't need
it
that.
shows
Unless
you the
I was
datedness of things.
Yeah. If I was going to be a scribe of some sorts.
Ooh, could you imagine yourself being a scribe?
No. That would be painful.
No, but isn't it the same kind of personality that you have for coding, where you're just sitting there and it's text? Now, of course, a transcriber is someone who is interpreting somebody else's work.
Yeah.
Whereas a coder is actually creating.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's interesting. When I was doing this internship, the very first day, I started shadowing someone, and I was just listening to the information, and then the manager came in and said, "Oh, Nabil, where's your notebook?" And then I thought, that happens to me frequently. I feel is or not frequently, but in these kind of situations, the expectations of note taking, and then I thought about it. I'm like, I guess I should probably write this stuff down. But then it also brings me back to the when I was in school and I would take notes, and then when I came to the realization that I'm taking these notes, but I don't even review exactly. So what am I wasting my time writing down?
I have a problem with that as well, because there is a strong emphasis on note taking as an important skill, and I do remind students that if they've written it down, they've taken more control over what they're learning.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, in my class, if we're going over some punctuation rules, and I say, okay, these are rules, put a comma after subordinating clause, put a comma for non-restrictive adjective clause, and try and remember what they are, write an example down. If I just tell them and point it out in the book, that doesn't necessarily stay with you. If they write it down, they've gone through the action of writing it, which is beneficial. But I also have never really sit and studied my notes thinking, wow, I am so glad I put this down.
Yeah.
I don't remember that point in my life where that happened to me. And so then I feel a bit of a hypocrite when I ask people to write down what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it's more of writing it in the moment engraves it a bit more deeply into your memory.
Yeah, I've heard that that's what that does, but in practice I can't say that I experienced the same thing. I would rather just give me a direction, point me in a direction, and I will go explore and try and understand the ideas that you're trying to teach me. And then I remember a teacher saying, just forget about the note taking, just pay attention in the class, and then if you want to take notes, then that's fine, but do the paying attention part first. Sometimes I guess people will get distracted by taking notes, but
I find if in one day or 1 hour I focused on these are 3 things I'll remember. These things are important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I try and make that a point for myself and for my classes, saying, okay, I've spent the whole hour doing this. I can't remember everything I've done.
Yeah.
What are the one or two most important things I can remember? So that's usually what I try and tell my students. This is what we're going to do, 1, 2, and 3. Hopefully you will remember those 3 things and how you do them.
Right.
And if not, I will repeat them, because you need to repeat them again and again.
Right.
However, the best form of learning is to teach someone.
Yeah, I could imagine.
If you can teach someone something, then you're really, you've
understand.
learned it. It doesn't necessarily mean that the other person has learned it.
Mm-hmm.
It just demonstrates that you know it enough to be able to explain it.
Yeah, I agree.
But then you have to find a reason to explain it if you want to gauge whether you've learned it or not. Unless you're a trained teacher who's going to get paid to do it, I don't know how often you would do that.
Yeah. I can't say in my professional career that there was much, I don't know, that kind of learning. There's learning, but it's like, it's a different kind of learning. I don't know.
Can we pivot a bit on the same concept of learning and the movie last night?
Oh, that movie. Yeah.
What were your thoughts about it? Because I was telling my friend this morning about the movie, and she goes, "Oh, you've watched it already? I've heard that it's got a case coming up against it because the lawyers, are doing a case that why have they highlighted them?" And I said, I didn't know what to make of the movie. I wasn't being entertained by it. And I know they were doing these clever things, and the movie was the Laundromat.
I don't even remember the name.
The name, because it's laundering money.
Mm-hmm.
So and I had read about it in the New Yorker.
Mm.
And so what happens is I get, sometimes the Economist or the New York, I'll get these magazines and I'll find what they're doing a review on. And of course, what's her name? The actress,
Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep. You assume any movie she's in is probably going to have some level of credibility. And so I thought, and Antonio Banderas was in it. Not that I like him that much, but,
Yeah.
So they were actors that I thought, oh, yeah, they're usually good.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to see it. And then when I started watching it, I thought,
I don't like movies that are too forward and trying to push an agenda.
This was very much an agenda.
Whether or not I would agree with the agenda or not.
Yes.
It's like the movie Black Klansman by, who's that famous director?
Oh, the one
Spike Lee.
Yes. Okay.
That was very much like pushing a thing, especially the last scene where it was like I don't know, it was just stuff about anti-America and race and stuff like that, and that's fine, but when you're trying to push it down my throat, then I'm like, no thanks, I don't like this. So I had the same, less, because I felt that less in this movie, but I did feel it, yeah.
Were you entertained by it? And were you looking for entertainment? That's what I was telling my friend. I said, I think I was educated, but not that much, because I have a general sense that people mess up. I mean, maybe I didn't know to that extent that they have that level of offshore companies that really are nothing.
Yeah. And to the untrained viewer might think that they might make a generalization that this is all business, and then, that all corporations are like this.
Yes.
That's what I think people might think. And
that this wasn't a unique situation.
And we're talking about specific, it was insurance companies, but then I guess the parent companies of the specific insurance companies were also involved in other businesses, presumably. And then it's like the local businesses that were getting these insurance policies were picking cheap ones, and my first response to that is like, well, yeah, there's your problem. Like, when you're shopping around for things like this and you find very cheap things of anything, there's a chance that they could be low quality or shady.
But how would you know though?
I guess you, in this case with insurance, I suppose you wouldn't know. I mean, look at some Google reviews or something. But yeah, I mean, it would be hard. But I don't know. To me, it was just like, well, yeah, there's part of your mistake. Maybe it's not their mistake fully. Obviously, these are people involved in corruption, but you can very easily isolate the blame on the corruption of the people, as opposed to some due diligence with every person along the chain of the transaction.
Did it have to be a feature, kind of a movie, or could it have been a documentary?
I probably would have been better as a documentary, or if it was this movie, then don't do the whole breaking the fourth wall, explaining stuff to us. Just let the two characters play as the characters.
Yes.
Like a normal movie.
Yes.
I
mean,
that would have
even
been better.
The start with the cavemen and all that.
Yeah, that was unnecessary.
That kind of.
You're simplifying things too much, I think.
Yes. Moving from bananas to.
Yeah, I was not engaged in that part at all. I was like, all right, cool. This is
not even cool.
I mean, like, yeah, this is not a parallel, or not a good one anyway.
Yes.
Money is more complex than that.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't know what to make of the movie.
Do you know who the director was?
Yes, Sodenheim. He's a famous director. I'll tell you. 1 second, I will tell you just now. Laundromat. It's supposed to be a drama and comedy. Oh, so the court has refused to block Netflix to show it.
Pardon?
Soderbergh, Steven Soderbergh.
That's the director?
That is the director.
Okay.
And Gary Oldman, Antonio Banderas. They've got the hominids 1, 2, and 3. And then Jeff Michalowski.
Yeah, in general, I don't like sensationalism. That's the problem. So if they just eliminated that, I would have much rather enjoyed I mean, the part where the director of 25,000 companies is just signing papers.
Yes.
If they maybe went in a bit more into the, I don't know what you want to call it, the technical side of that, where what's the whole idea of that concept? If they just explained it, that would have been interesting to me.
Yes.
Like the mechanics behind this fraudulent activity.
Yes.
And how you're able to get away with it. That would have been good. The more in depth of the legal loopholes that they're going through, basically. Not the fact that they are doing it, but because that's the root of the problem, is it not?
Oh, so he made Aaron Brockovich, Apocalypse Now.
Oh, I like that one.
This is a new one, it looks like. 2019. Godless. And what are some other? Sex, Lies, and Videotape. That was a big. Traffic. That was a big one. That was actually one. Did you see that? Traffic?
Yeah, I did. Ludacris was in that, right? The rapper?
I think so. Yes, he is in it. Benicio del Torres, Jacob, Michael, Thomas. Oh, I don't see Ludacris.
His name is Chris something, I think.
Okay. Andrew Chris something?
No.
Okay.
I don't remember his real name.
Oh, and Syriana, that was good. Oh, no, that wasn't his. Anyhow, yes, so I didn't like it that much.
But what is your thought on what I just said?
That if they had just focused on some elements of the action.
Well, so the root of the problem is the legal loopholes that they're going through to do this. So maybe explaining some detail about these legal loopholes. Right? That's the problem.
Yes. That it's everything they did was legal.
Right. And so if you look maybe into the
and that's
the
why
codes
they were in jail
and
for 3 months.
Yeah, then you could get a better understanding of that. But yeah, I mean, I'm not involved in political activism. So to me, there's no. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's like, all right, well, here's a problem, and I'm not going to do anything about it, and all right, that was great, I guess.
Yeah.
And I still don't know what the problem is.
And you want to be conscientious, but you know you're going to be conscientious anyway about not looking for things that look. If it looks too good, it probably is too good.
What do you mean by that?
As in, like the insurance, which he said is a cheaper insurance.
Yeah.
If it looks too good, should go deeper into it.
Yeah, that's correct.
Because it's probably there's something.
Yeah.
But maybe we're cynical, and the average person isn't.
Yeah, but then you'll become vulnerable.
Yeah, that is true. Okay, so now, not to just kind of focus only on movies, but what the heck, talked about movies. The vegetarian concept.
Oh, yes.
Do you think that's a fad? Do you think 1 year from now we're going to say, what the heck? We thought we weren't supposed to have meat?
I think it's a fad to the extent that of our own willingness. As in, like, yeah, it might be a fad because we are not willing to change. But I think eating vegetables as opposed to eating meat and animal products, I'm willing to bet it's a healthier option.
Yeah, I feel so.
I don't see...
I also feel it's sometimes a tasty option. I don't really have the craving for meat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel as if, I'd better have.
Yeah, I don't either. But, I do have the occasional cheeseburger, pizza. These are things that I don't know. Actually, I could eliminate it. It's just the problem is when you're meeting other people, like friends, and if they're not on board with it, you're not gonna... You either don't eat with them or...
Well, you can order. Most places you can get something which is vegetarian. You don't have to have the meat part.
That's true. But it's like if you go to a burger joint, what are you gonna get there?
Non-burger.
I mean, I guess you got the fried
fries, and they were good.
That's true. I suppose you could do stuff like that.
Yes. Because you don't have to have the whole burger and patty and all of that. Somehow we feel as if, we have to have all the main thing. You could have the periphery. Sometimes the periphery stuff is much tastier.
That's true. I guess then more specific, it would be like if you ordered a pizza together, then you're eating your dairy there. You could... Well, we went to a pizza place, me, Faisal, and Daniel, but it wasn't that good. We ordered a vegetarian pizza, but it became watery. First, it was a bit like water, liquidy, and I thought, let it rest. But actually, letting it rest made it more watery. And I think it's Daniel. Well, I said that the vegetables have water in them, and then Daniel said, "Yeah, you have to cook them before you put them on the pizza." So yeah, I don't know if there's some specialty.
But the more you cook vegetables, the squishier they become.
Can you not dehydrate them?
You could have dehydrated vegetables and just...
No, you can't get that out of cooking them?
I guess. But they would taste mushy. If they were fresh, you could have dehydrated.
Would they be mushy though? Because if you cook them to get the water out, wouldn't they become more brittle or...
I guess you could.
Harder?
I would keep them fresh. But maybe they should start having... Do you remember ever having a pizza in Italy with potatoes on it?
potatoes on it? No.
Yes, because they do have that in Italy. It's a thin crust with potatoes on it. And that went really well.
Any
I'm
cheese
surprised
on it?
No, actually, no. They just have seasoning and maybe some olive oil, and so that the potatoes taste nice. And so, yeah, I'm surprised that they don't bring that here, because it did taste good. Now, you could argue it's carbohydrates with more carbohydrates, but it is a very good vegetarian option.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I could...
Oh, that reminds me, I have some... what's it called? What are the red potatoes? Yellow potatoes? What are they called?
Yams, sweet potatoes.
Sweet potatoes. I have some that I was going to make today, so I'll probably make those because they are good snackaroo to eat.
But yeah, I don't think it's a fad. I mean, I don't
You think it's wise?
Yeah, I don't think... Yeah. I don't think this is like a fad of like... I don't think in the 80s when like fat-free, reduced fat was a big marketing thing. I don't think it's like one of those. So, I mean...
So, no, your time is going to change soon, in another 2 weeks.
Oh, the daylight savings? Fall back?
Yeah.
So it's going to go back 1 hour?
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, do we go backwards or forwards?
Well, spring forward, fall back.
Oh, yeah. So that means it'll be darker this time? Yes, it will. It'll be like 5 o'clock when it's supposed to be 4 o'clock.
This will be 3 o'clock. Fall back, right?
Oh, you wake up early in the morning.
Yeah, I think so.
No.
Doesn't fall back mean turn your clock back 1 hour? I think so.
My mind isn't working.
I think it's that. I think it'll be 3:44. It's because we're running out of daylight right now, so we want more. So I think that's how it works.
You know what we could try?
What?
Be silent for as long as we can. Let's see how long we can be silent.
Yeah, we could. But let's think of something to talk about, I think.
You want to talk about
I mean, you could be
something?
silent, but just take that time to think about something on your mind.
Yeah, okay, let's give ourselves a moment of 3 moments of silence. Now, it's funny, you only give moments of silence when you're sad about something. But why do we not say, let's be silent and really take in the happiness?
Is moments of silence for sadness or contemplation?
It's usually sadness, a moment of silence because something bad has happened.
But is it...
To contemplate on life, yes.
Right. So,
but why do we not contemplate on life when we are happy?
well, the contemplating on the sadness is because it's hard to understand and comprehend, maybe. So it's the person speaking cannot describe in words to help the audience understand.
Or you give people a moment to respect the person, and hence the silence, because it's usually something has happened, like an earthquake, or people have passed on or something, and then when you have a gathering in a school or in a business, you'll say, let's take a moment of silence in memory of the people, or it's usually people who have suffered whatever they've suffered. So the thing has already happened some time back usually, so it's not an immediate reaction to, okay, something terrible has just happened, let's be silent. It's something sad has happened around us some time back, but now we're showing our respect for the people that has happened to, and so we are going to be silent out of respect.
Yeah, that's true.
And we never say, wow, that was excellent news. Something happy happens, and then you say, out of respect for acknowledging the good news and making sure we don't get too
excited.
Yeah,
I'd like to be that person saying those things.
Let's take a moment of
All
silence
right,
to
let's
reflect.
calm down and
Yes.
let's just think about the success we've had and how it will move forward.
And how it will probably be successful for too long.
Yes, exactly.
This is a moment, a flash in the pan, a shooting star that will fall. So
I'd like to deliver that message. That would be fun.
Okay, we can think of a good moment next time where you can say, let us all be silent.
Do you use tools to outline when you're writing
Yes.
before you start writing?
I sometimes do some. Yeah, I do. I will sometimes think through with. What do you mean by tools? As in, I
So,
brainstorm or
in
cluster.
software development, I will use a thing as like a flow charting where you diagram out the general flow of your application, and when you run into like conditional statements. So generally a software developer would draw one of those out first before they start writing any code, so they understand what kind of checks they're going to want to do, and they get the general structure of the program. So do you do something like that for writing?
I do. I make outlines or I cluster, but I don't use a particular tool for it.
Okay, but like your outlines are just text based. Like these ones are like you use shapes. So like an oval indicates the start of a procedure. Then a square is like used for just a general process. A triangle is used for if there's a conditional statement there. So would using shapes like that, I guess
they
that
would
wouldn't
be
really...
very helpful. No. I'm thinking it would, because when you tell a story, you have the setting, and then you have the first risk, and then you have you have all these steps in the story that you tell, the hero's journey.
And then maybe even then you could have the triangle for the conditional, and then it's like, if the person dies, the story goes this way. If it doesn't, this way. And then you can maybe decide how you want it to go.
What is the tool that you use?
So draw.io.
Okay, let me see that.
Yeah.
It sounds like something that I could consider using.
Yeah, it's pretty cool and easy to use. And it syncs. You can sign in with your Google account. And then it's almost like, you know how Google Docs, that format is of a doc or a sheet?
Yes.
So it comes in that same format.
Oh, so draw.io,
or if you're just Googling, just type draw space IO.
Flowchart.
Yeah.
And you can authorize.
And so you can drag and drop different shapes, enter in fonts, rounded edges.
So
color.
It is affiliated with Google?
They have an integration with it. I don't know if Google is the one who made it, but whoever made it has made it very similar to like a Google Docs. And it's if you sign in with Google, it'll go to your drive.
Okay.
So it's just like an additional thing to Google Docs.
It's an additional app to Google Docs.
Yeah, basically. And it has, think of it like a Excel spreadsheet, but for flowcharts, because they have tabs and stuff. You can add new tabs. And you can, one page can be a big, you know how you have those pictograms where these big images with different diagrams on it. So you can make it like that.
So you got a variety of them. So if I say, this is very fascinating. So you got a basic one, and you've got tables, layout, flowcharts.
So you can do the pre ones, or I just go to the blank one and just make one from scratch.
So basic?
Yeah, basic, whatever the one where there's nothing there.
Yes. Use the root folder, yes. And
then you can put down shapes and start designing your own flowchart, and it's a good way to think about the structure of whatever you're writing from a macro level.
Okay, so I've got the shape here, and then I can't write in it. How do I write in it? Edit data? No.
Usually depending on what shape you picked, you can just double click into it.
Okay.
You can also just manually put text anywhere by...
Oh, they've got a... okay.
Well, there's a specific text one, but also some of the boxes have their own like built-in text thing where you just double click on it. But so yeah.
What made you think of that?
Well, actually, during my internship, one of the exercises was the manager described a system and asked me to design a flowchart for that system. So I wasn't doing that for my own project, but I thought it might be a good idea to do that for my own good. That way when I'm thinking about how I want to improve or change my software.
So he told you about this?
I had used this before, and because they had asked me, do you use any flow charting tools like this?
Yes.
And I said I have, I just don't remember the names. So, and then he had mentioned this tool, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have used this once before.
Okay, so you can share it with others. You can synchronize it. So you have so if you have an outline, if you already have an outline that is created, it will synchronize with that, correct? Is that how it works? So it's got Command Shift O. You can support it as, you can export it as a URL.
If you already have an outline, I assume it would have to be a certain format. I don't know.
I would assume that too. So save, autosave. Okay, so it's just kind of the same as Google. That is fascinating. Good to know.
So yeah, I've been trying to change my design method to start with this first and then write the code.
So you don't usually do that?
No, I don't. I just write the code and just whatever's on the paper is how I would. But then this could be good also my code is open source. So if I put together this stuff and I include it in the documentation, then somebody
knows what the thought that went through
exactly, because it's hard to go read line by line and understand it. But if you're able to at least get a general overview first, then you can much more easily understand.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So here's another thing that I've been using, which I find really nice. You see this Instagram post I have here? Do you like it?
Let's see. The author's strength lies in plunging the reader into Tara's little universe with detailed and elaborate descriptions of the little things that surround, summon, seduce, and sometimes even seclude her. Let's see if I can put this in front of the camera. I don't know which camera I'm looking at. Okay, it's not that clear, but anyway, yes, looks like a great Instagram post. And nripulse.com. I don't know what that is.
It's non-resident Indian website. And so anyway...
did you write? Is that a quote from them?
That's a quote from them because they reviewed my book and this is what they said about my book. And so I made this Instagram, if you can see, this is... I used Canva. Have you used Canva?
Sounds familiar, but let's just assume I haven't.
So this has all these templates, all these spaces that you can create, things like this, and I've seen people create flyers and other, short video things as well that you can create using Canva. And it's a free resource. I just thought it was fascinating that how I feel it looks professional. I don't know if you think it does.
I agree. It does look professional.
It does, doesn't it? And I like the images. They've got a whole slew of free images that you can use, which I've realized is a big deal.
Yeah.
When you want to promote things.
Right.
Yep.
Interesting.
That was so your tool that you're mentioning is what?
Draw.io.
Draw.io.
Whenever you see a website or app with IO at the end of it, it stands for like input output. It's tech companies like to use that subdomain name. So yeah, Draw.io.
Okay. Draw.io. That's good to know.
Yeah. So
maybe I'll try and use it in my classes if I can work it out myself, because I use Google Docs a lot in the classes.
And how would you? To structure
the essays that they're writing.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you could, because then you can you automatically draw arrows that connect from one shape to the other, so it shows the flow, obviously.
Although I found sometimes if you're using a new tool, that can be distracting as well.
Yeah, well, you should definitely give it some.
Yeah.
You should try it out
I
before
should
you
definitely
put it
try it out
before you
a lot
implement
more.
it.
Yeah. So for this evening, are you planning to cook, or should we order in vegetarian pizza?
Yes, we do have some guests coming over. I mean, I was not planning on cooking. If nothing, I plan on eating the dal and bread.
The dal is working well for you? Yeah. Okay.
So, but if that's not sufficient for guests, then yes, I suppose we
I
can
have
order
salad
pizza.
stuff.
Okay.
I have salad stuff that we can. So your urge to cook is kind of gone. You used to make pizzas and stuff.
Yeah, that's definitely gone. That's been gone since I left New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, the amount of cooking I'll do is would have been the scrambled eggs, but I'm trying to replace the eggs with the dal. And then the second meal, which is the rice and vegetables. I've been eating leftovers, so I haven't cooked that in a while.
And that vegetarian meat tastes fairly...
Yeah, I didn't eat any of it yet. I tasted it.
You could have that tonight if you wanted.
Although, I wonder
what's the point?
No, what's in the vegetarian meat, because I remember getting veggie patties one time, the frozen ones, and looking at the ingredients. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't know what it is. So that's
true. I don't see any point in... I would just prefer have vegetables. Yeah, I agree.
I don't want the other chemicals and stuff.
Yes, I totally agree. That is a very valid point. So the plan for next week, is there anything in particular that we want to talk about or think about?
Well, even if we set something out,
but at least we will have talked about it.
Yeah.
It's like note-taking. I mean, we could sit in silence. A moment of silence for by the time we end.
For pending ideas.
Well,
I mean, I want to make progress with my software. That's probably where most of my motivation lies. So, and with this flowchart stuff.
I want to write a lot more, and currently I'm writing about my writing to help promote the book that I have already written. And then when I go to England over the winter break, then I want to kind of really start writing my book. So that is what I'm planning.
Do you write about the mechanics of writing?
Yes, the most recent article that I've just written is called Flies, Shrines, and Memories of the Farm. And so I'm telling my readers why I chose to write from the flies' perspective, why I've included shrines and the shrine of the keeper of the flies, and a bit about why the farms that I have placed my story in, and some of the historical context, and ended it with this line that, once people, and because not a lot of books are written about people living on farms in South Asia, so I feel that this is a chance to get an intimate glimpse into their lives. And so part of it comes from this idea of why have I written the book. And of course I had this initial compulsion to write it and write the story, but why this place, why not something else? And so as I'm analyzing that a bit more about why I did it the way I did and what I'm doing, I'm kind of clarifying not only for myself but also any readers, because the content and the reason are important to me.
Wonderful.
So that is, I will continue writing about my writing.
That sounds good. Well, we're at 5:01. We've done an hour. We've done our due diligence. So thank you for tuning in. And until next time, toodaloo.
Toodaloo.